Hello, everybody. I just want to
Hello,
thank you.
everybody. Uh, I hope you're well and you are watching the live stream of Blockchain Community Day conference powered by EPAM. And my name is Andrew, and today I will be moderating the session and will be in the next hour with you. Let me note that our session is being recorded, and you'll be able to watch it later if you miss any interesting moments. Also, I would like to remind you that you can put your questions to the right of the video in the Q&A section. And let's move on. And today we are going to talk about decentralized autonomous companies. And Witt will help with it, help to sort this topic out. Hi, Do, how are you?
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. Thanks for all the viewers from EPAM for tuning in. I know that we've got viewers all across the globe. It's pretty early here in Texas, and I know it's pretty late for some of you guys. So I just want to thank you for joining, and hope to have a really good interactive conversation here just on the current state of the decentralization, autonomous companies, also known as DAOs, and kind of the evolution of DAOs into DACs. And with that comes kind of the transition from the Web 2 to the Web 3 economy. So it's a really exciting time for the industry. It's a really exciting time for Midas, and I hope you might learn something today. If not, it'll be a fun presentation that you could something that you've already known. So we could definitely.
Thank you, Do. Thank you, Do. Nice to meet you too.
Of course.
Let me say a couple of words to our audience about you. So let me introduce to our dear audience. So Do, you are the Director of Business Development of Metis project, and Metis, and our people, I will tell our people who are watching us that Metis project is the layer 2 solution on Ethereum. And by the way, you also graduated from University of Texas at Dallas and did your master's in corporate innovation. Am I correct?
That's it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. You've been also a frequent spokesman at DeFi conference, correct?
Yep. So we hit all the majors this year. We were at ETH Denver, we were at Consensus, we went to NFT NYC, and a lot of the ones international as well. So this is a little bit different for me for doing the virtual conference, but I've done a couple of these as well, and they're always fun. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So let's talk about what is it, decentralized autonomous companies? Because everybody, I believe, know decentralized autonomous organizations. But what's the difference, and how have you developed it in your Metis project?
So
okay,
first off,
so please tell us.
Of course, yeah. So Midas is a layer 2 first and foremost. So we're a second layer that inherits Ethereum's security and decentralization. However, we are able to roll up a whole bunch of transactions into just one transaction and push those to the mainnet. That allows layer 2s to get the low fees compared to Ethereum, but still have the security. So that's what we primarily do. We're a network first and foremost, but our big goal and our big idea is really to, once we get our network established and a vibrant ecosystem, then we can also build out some of our network that's where our heart is, and that's transitioning the Web 2 to Web 3. And that's done through decentralized organizations or companies. So most people are familiar with a DAO, right? DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It enables collaborations, governance, transparency, and automation, all the things we're used to, kind of taken for granted in, working in Web3 in crypto. But DAOs do have their limitations as well. We'll get to the limitations in a little bit. And it's really important to understand what a DAO is. That way you can understand what a DAC is and the differences between the two. So basically, DAOs and the solution that they intend to solve, they're global, right? So they're all over the world. They're like the first pioneer, I guess you could say, of the remote work that we all have gotten used to after COVID. But DAOs really enable that global remote work that's distributed all across the globe. It also minimizes trust. You can be anonymous and still work in a DAO. Anybody can contribute, anybody can collaborate, and it's different ways of contributing as well. So it's different disciplines, and you can be distributed and doing different things in different parts of the globe. And then you can also incentivize as well. So based on your contribution levels, you can incentivize people with certain amounts of tokens and everything else. So the entire organization kind of operates independently.
Yeah, that's the most important about reward.
Yeah, it's independent, of course, right? But there are a lot of problems with DAOs as well. And once we get into these, you'll kind of see what the DACs tried to solve. But they're grossly inefficient. It's so decentralized that you don't have that quick decision-making power that you might have with a board of directors or a tight group. And then eventually DAOs kind of get burnouts, right? So people they contribute, they get all into it, but eventually just kind of fatigue sets in and they get kind of burnt out of, spending hours and hours a day in each of these different communities. That really, because anybody can join, there's a problem that develops where not enough people know what is really going on. They might not understand what one part of the DAO is working on versus another, and so it's very kind of disjointed. So some of the problems that result as part of the solutions that DAOs try to solve. So because they're so decentralized and globally distributed, they also kind of, as a con to that, are inefficient. So we kind of like to say that a DAO is really just a bunch of guys or a bunch of people arguing in a Discord channel with a treasury, right? So they raise a bunch of money, they form a community, and then they pretty much argue within each other internally about the direction that they're going to take. And so that can lead to a lot of problems. Some of those problems are what a DAC is trying to solve. So in a nutshell, a DAO versus a DAC is much more focused in its goal. It's a little bit more rigid. DAOs are a lot more, they have a lot more freedom to kind of do whatever and submit certain proposals for whatever, where DACs are much more streamlined. They're a lot tighter. They're much more focused, and they have a certain rules and certain sets that allow certain behaviors and also incentivize those behaviors as well. So basically, if you can remember where the the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin, about how much more possibilities that Ethereum opened up to compared to Bitcoin and that smart contracts offer, a DAC is similar, where it gives you access to those smart contracts. You can specify exactly who can interact with them. So it's not this free open world. It is very, very similar to a kind of a CRM solution for Web 2. So you're able to actually have the main issue really is control, but control in a good way. So you can kind of gate off certain functions to certain people, and you can only allow certain users to have access to certain files. So it's a lot more permission based, and it's a lot more management based as well. So within that, you've got governance capabilities. You can assign voting power. You can assign delegates, and then you can go fully permission. So everything's closed off like a walled garden, or you could go the more DAO governance route, or a little of both in between. So you actually get to control how much power you give your individual community members. And then the coolest part, in my opinion, is that it's got a management framework. So you can set up your business on chain, and say you only wanted to do your payroll on chain or your expenses on chain, or maybe you've got some parts that you're shipping overseas and for a very, very important collectible project or something, that you need to ensure that those parts were licensed and authorized. You could use the DAC just for supply chain functions. So you kind of build out the framework that you need based on the business that you're designing to run. So you could run the entire small business on chain, or just one little bit of that payroll function on chain. And we're partnering with all kinds of different DAO tooling organizations and infrastructure organizations to integrate different functionalities into a DAC. And if you're still confused at this point what a DAC is, and I can kind of open it up, Andrew, if you wanted to ask some questions, but basically a DAC is the Web2, CRM type centralized, forgive the word centralized, but more a centered software and tooling that is on chain that just has more control and more options that you can personalize for your use. So you take all of everything you can do in a DAO and you kind of just focus it onto a little, scope. And so that narrow scope allows you a lot more functionality than you would a regular DAO.
And may I ask a question? What about these payroll finance and investment rules? Are they somehow structured, put in smart contracts, or what? How are they governed?
That's a great question. Correct. So they will be pretty much functionalities or features that you're like a plugin essentially that is run via smart contracts that you can turn your payroll on. And so you would input all of the data, it would be in a smart contract, and then it would be executed once it's run. The way we do this is with our Polis middleware, we call it. So it's a no code interface that you can log in and it's run all in the background on a smart contract, but for the UI and UX that the user sees, you've got a dashboard. So if you want to do your payroll, you want to make an investment DAO, and you've got an X amount of treasury, you want to send it out here. That's all done via smart contracts. And that essentially what it is that we're doing. We're not building a new fancy Web3 CRM. We're running it on chain. So that's the key differentiator between maybe some kind of CRM software that's put out and what we're doing. We're kind of bridging those together.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But scalability is a big one too. And that's why layer twos are very, very crucial to this because obviously, as we saw last year with Ethereum, the transaction fees and the transaction times, super, super high. Whereas if you're interacting on a layer two, it is virtually instantaneous, as quick as you can click, transactions confirmed. And our transaction fees are right around 1 cent. So that makes what we're doing feasible. Whereas if you were doing it on a layer one, the network is taking so long and it is so expensive, hundreds of dollars a transaction, it just wouldn't be feasible to run all of the stuff we want to run on chain on the main layer. So that's why not only did we recognize early on that we needed layer twos, but at the time, the layer two solutions were not optimal for what we were trying to do, which is why we actually built our own layer two network. So we're able to do these fast and cheap transactions in-house on our own network. And then while we build out this DAC functionality, which really is going to power Web3 for the next 5 to 10 years. And a big part of this, as you can see on the left and the right, basically DAOs is just, kind of like my joke earlier about just a bunch of guys in Discord channel. Same thing. You just got voting, governance, and reputation power. Versus DACs, you've got all those 3 things as well, but you can do the payroll, financing, HR, project management. The scope really, really opens up the things you can do just because you can make a specialized DAC for every individual function and then roll that up into a larger DAC. So it's a really, really cool idea and concept that we're building out that kind of just expands the use cases of DAOs. And we're kind of imagining a world where it might be something as small as your homeowners association or your bridge club, your poker club that you like to play cards with. You could create some rules, and you could everybody pays their dues, and they do it within this DAC that kind of runs your little organization. Or it could be as big as a small business running all of those individual business functions on chain. And it's especially useful as we're kind of testing this out. And in Web3 and crypto, right? We're pioneering remote work. We're pioneering companies, organizations operating on chain via DAOs. That's just the first evolution of it. As we refine this and as we kind of build this out in scope and scale, then we open it up to the next billion users that all of business will somehow in some way touch the blockchain. And so we're opening up those tools that we can use for that future.
So it's with the focus, or when the company will start moving to metaverse, to Web3.
Yeah, certainly, that's the goal. But again, this going back into DACs, it's really about controlling the function for the user, right? So if you're HR or communication, marketing, things like that, you're going to have certain permissions. You're going to have certain maybe incentive structures. You're gonna see a different user experience than somebody with different permissions, somebody with these bigger, more expansive roles. That's very similar to how Web 2 does it, right? Through a permissions-based organization and IT setup. So it's taking that general idea and then kind of broadening it out to the Web3 space. And of course, with Metis, we already talked about earlier, just on the layer 2 side. So again, we are just an optimistic rollup, but we do have the lowest fees among all layer 2s. Super fast transactions, again, as quick as you can click. And then it's all on decentralized, all on Ethereum. We're by far, in our opinion, the best layer 2 out there. So we're really, really proud of that. And we continue to grow our ecosystem as well. So not only are you going to do all the cool stuff you can with DACs, but you've got a fully functional layer 2 network that's got all your DeFi needs, your DeFi primitives, lending, borrowing, stable swaps, all that right at home on the Metis network. We also have a grant program as well. And for any projects or developers out there that are watching this, please be sure to reach out to me via DM. You can also scan this link as well. We're running our Metis Marathon actually all year, where we're incentivizing different projects to come on our network through various grant incentives. So please contact us via this link if you're interested. So that's all I really have for the DAX stuff, and I wanted to get this more collaborative and kind of a more Q&A session because it's more conceptual, but it's really kind of interactive as well. So I'd like to open it up to Andrew or anybody out there for any questions.
As for now, let me check a bit. Just a moment. No, I see that we don't have questions from our audience. And let me check. I have some couple of questions from our team.
Cool.
Are you okay to answer them?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. So the first, what are some use cases for DACs for Web 2 companies?
Sure. So I covered it a little bit earlier, but really the possibilities, some use cases that come to mind. Again, the homeowners association, your small plumber, anything that really you would think that you couldn't put on chain. We're giving you that availability. It could be something small like just the payroll function, right? But that's really any business. Any business has payroll. They could, if they wanted to, set up 10 different accounts for 10 different employees. They could run everything through Polis and through their DAC. They could automate payroll, very, very similar to how a lot of cryptos companies do it. They've got all their addresses. When payday comes, they hit pay, and it goes out there. Web 2 businesses can do the same thing, and we can automate, and they can do everything. Sure, the learning curve is high, but that's what we're trying to bring down. But other than that, it could be, look at what Starbucks is doing with Polygon with the reward program. It could be a huge Web 2 company that's really interested and wants to kind of figure Web 3 out, knowing that they want to be on cutting edge. They could do a rewards program. So it could be anything from the smallest business to the biggest Fortune 50 company, and everything in between. As these functionalities get developed, you could run one part, your entire business on chain.
Okay. Let me develop this question, add some clarification or maybe additional questions from my side.
Sure.
What about legislation? For example, I have a company. I want to move it to Web3. Will the payroll and all the processes respond to national legislation? So maybe I can be in USA, I can be in UK, and so on.
That's a very, very good question, and one that we're all asking ourselves through different parts of crypto, right? The regulatory aspect. How is upcoming regulations going to affect me? Yes, of course, obviously it will have an impact, and something that both business owners and obviously us in the industry will always have to keep abreast of. But the general guidance right now, regarding DAOs especially, is they're their own independent entity, and therefore they're kind of they don't necessarily have a home country. Obviously, we'd have users out there would have to get a lot more clarity on the regulatory front. But the general guidance now is that DACs are operated very, very similar to or classified similar to as DAOs. So while that might change in the future, right now it's not not allowed or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for your answer. One more question. Could you explain more about reputation power, how it is used within DACs and other use cases?
Very, very good. So we talked about it a little bit on this slide, but I'm very glad you asked that one, because this is a key thing. It was pioneered with DAOs, right? But there's no system that is consistent across the industry. Every kind of DAO has their own version of reputation power, where it's like a karma system where you can kind of just click and like, and they get points for as many likes as they get, or it can be a lot more standardized on-chain reputation power. But reputation power is going to kind of impact all of our lives in Web3 and beyond, in the fact that it allows you to be recognized and rewarded for your contributions to Web3 via a decentralized identity solution. And now the way that works is you're anonymous in crypto, right? You've got a wallet address. You might even have a PFP profile picture with your wallet address, but nobody really knows who that wallet address is. They just know OX8AF4. He votes all the time, right? He's a great voter, and I know that address, and I see him a lot. I don't know who he is, but so the general idea is to assign points and assign a reputation. So, maybe us and our DAO, we know that guy, but then he goes over to a different DAO and he's just new. But they don't talk to us and say, hey, that guy's great. We really like him. He votes. He's got great ideas. And so the idea with reputation power is to, now he's leaving this DAO or DAC and going over to a new one, but he's bringing his reputation power of 500 to a new DAO or DAC, and they've only got reputation power of 50 each. Like, wow, this guy, he must be something else. He's got 100 or 5 times the reputation power we brought. That's great. So that's just a small example of how reputation power or what it is. But you can establish different campaigns for totally different use cases. You could have somebody that has a campaign where they have taken crypto loans, and they've taken 10 crypto loans and paid them all back. So they've got a really good score. They've got a good reputation power of paying back loans. Eventually, this system can be even used for under collateralized lending, like we see in the traditional financial system, where you have a kind of a credit score and you say, hey, I need $1,000. They say, oh, you've got a bad credit score. We can't do it. You've got a good credit score. We'll just give you the $1,000 because we know you're going to pay us back. Same thing, but in Web3. And you don't, it doesn't necessarily have to do with lending or under collateralization, things like that. It can even have to do with games and just different contributions to different DAOs. So there's different campaigns that you can do in order to gain reputation power and also to lose reputation power. So it's key in our DACs. We've actually got something called matrix reputation power, which is a system, and we have that available for any DApp to use. So you can, with that concept of reputation power in mind, you can actually build that out with special campaigns just for your DApp. So there's a lot of use cases on chain for reputation power, and you guys are going to start hearing a lot more about it in the future.
Mm-hmm. So it's like some rank of DACs, yeah, inside the ecosystem.
Exactly. It's like a ranking or a scoring system in order to reward and also punish on-chain behavior. And what we decided to do with it, what the developers and the DApps decided to do with it, it's up to us, right? But just having that kind of scoring system, and it's going to be a good thing because it incentivizes Web3, it incentivizes on-chain contributions. So it's a reward system to reward those that are truly dedicated to the space.
Okay. And I see DACs also have such an option as to vote, yeah, voting.
Yep.
So I believe reputation power also somehow will be used while some voting, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So you would, let's say you voted.
Governance and voting. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So if you voted like 10 times or 100 times, right? And I have a project and I've got a really important vote. Maybe I want to make everybody who's voted more than 10 times, maybe I want to make their vote count a little bit more, you know, to reward them. Or maybe I want to incentivize or airdrop something that has that reputation score of always being a good voter. So it rewards and it incentivizes. Like we talked about earlier about burnout in DAOs, it tries to eliminate or at least reduce that burnout and fatigue and reward incentivize those voters.
Okay, and maybe from me some question.
Yeah.
Does Metis use its own blockchain?
So it actually does not use its own block. Well, we're a layer 2, so we are right underneath Ethereum. We use Ethereum's for our settlement layer. However, we are own separate network and ecosystem.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe I'm not technically so good with the connection between layer 2 and Ethereum EVM, virtual machine. Yeah.
Yep.
So does layer 2 solutions always have separate blockchain?
Yes. Yes. A separate layer, correct.
Yeah, and Metis, do it has any?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're very similar to Optimism or Arbitrum. We're a secondary settlement layer.
And is it using which mining mechanism does it use?
Well, with the merge, we proof of stake with Ethereum. So it's all layer 2s are they're not a separate blockchain. They're parts of the Ethereum ecosystem. So Avalanche and Phantom, those are different. You have Ethereum, and then you have Optimism, Arbitrum, Metis. We're a second layer.
Excuse me, though. Maybe I am a dumb person.
It's all right.
I'd better ask a question. Maybe anybody in our audience also don't understand how it is connected. If everybody understands all the chain links, it will be great and make use to you and to all our audience. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move to the next question. We have one more. Where is Metis at its roadmap, and more specifically, its decentralization roadmap?
Very good. So we've got a lot of big things coming up. We already talked about Matrix, our reputation power system. That is in our pre-alpha stage. Throughout the next quarter, we're going to be getting it ready for launch, and so we got a lot of cool launch activities coming up for that. But yeah, with our decentralization roadmap, all layer 2s are inherently centralized just because they're sequencer. It's a single sequencer that the company or the foundation runs. And in order to just because it's super important that you don't have a centralized sequencer for various reasons, we're establishing a sequencer pool which rotates the sequencers out. So every certain amount of transactions, a sequencer will rotate out, and then we are using reputation power actually to run that system. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing some articles how reputation power is going to influence the governance process and allow protocols to get or proposals to get passed. So we've got a lot of interesting stuff coming up on the decentralization roadmap. A lot of the different layer 2s are really pushing for decentralization in the next few quarters, but we really do aim to be the first. So really exciting things in regards to decentralization, and DACs and reputation power all play into it.
Okay, thank you. I believe it's clear for the person who asked this question. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. And maybe one more technical question. Why an optimistic rollup instead of ZK rollup is used?
It's a good one. And one we launched in stealth after about 2 years and kind of came out last summer. And that was a question that our founders really went for. Just as all the other layer twos, do we go optimistic? Do we go ZK? At the time and still now, ZK has a much higher learning curve. You'll sometimes hear people say there's about 5 people on Earth who truly understand ZK. That's changed. There's been a lot of developments in ZK in the future, and we've actually just kind of been starting to explore it. And it is in our roadmap to eventually transition to ZK rollups when the tech's there, when the dev support is there, and we're also keeping an eye on ZKs that are EVM equivalent, which takes a huge burden off the development side. So to answer your question, ZK when the time is right, but right now optimistic is the kind of the perfect middle ground of speed, security, and transactions.
Okay, thank you. And I believe the person who asked understand your answer, but just in a couple of words, for me, for example, or for anybody else who hasn't understood, what is the difference, the main difference between optimistic and that K rollup?
So it's quite technical, and I'm going to do my best to kind of explain it. But basically, it comes down to the fraud proofs. And ZK stands for zero knowledge. So there's zero knowledge fraud proofs, basically. And forgive me out there, devs, if I butcher this, but you, without having to see any of the transaction data, you know that the fraud proof passes, basically. So you don't need to basically see all of the transaction data to know what they're submitting is valid. Whereas an optimistic rollup, they assume that all of the transactions are valid. They don't know it's to be true, but they assume it to be true. And you can challenge this by using the fraud proof challenge window, which is a 7-day window that you can withdraw your money or your funds from layer 2 back to Ethereum. So within that 7-day window, that gives enough time for anybody to challenge that. And so the mechanism and structure of it's quite different, because with ZK, you are confident based on the mechanism and structure that it is a valid transaction, where with an optimistic rollup, just like its name, your fingers crossed, you're optimistic that it is. But if it isn't, there is a 7-day window to challenge that, and anything that is submitted that is not valid will, in a perfect or in a likely scenario, catch that fraudulent transaction. So there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. I'm sure if the viewers out there want to do some research on ZK versus OR, Google be your friend. But that's basically it in a nutshell.
I see. Thank you. Let's move to the next question. Maybe from somebody who has already thinking of implementing or trying the Metis project. How long does the integration take on Metis layer 2?
So super quick. We've had DApps deploy in a day, less than a day, even an hour before. We're EVM equivalent. So if you're on Ethereum or any EVM chain, it's just bam, bam, you're live. We've got a lot of developer docs I could send you. You guys want to reach out to me afterwards, or even just hit us up at this grant program. We could just show you how easy it is. And we also have a full tech team. We call it our integration team that walks you through the process.
Okay. So thank you that you've moved to this slide. I actually wanted to ask you to move to it. Yeah. Can you explain the benefits of this program?
Sure.
Do developers or people who are interested in Metis can get some grants to integrate into the ecosystem?
Absolutely. So we're doing our Metis Marathon. It lasts all year, and depending on your project, if you qualify, we've got certain requirements. But if you hit this link, we've got a grant application where you can list, all your contact info, links to your projects, your website, your white paper, light paper, etc. And then we have a grant review team that reviews all of the different applications that we have come in. that opens the door to meetings with our business development team. But yes, the grant program is primarily meant to incentivize DApps to come to our ecosystem. And we provide these liquidity incentives to kind of kickstart the use of these different DApps. So
what
really,
do you mean by liquidity? Is it some stat amount of tokens inside the ecosystem?
Different token rewards. I want to choose my words carefully, but different token rewards to incentivize the use of different the applications.
By the way, how it is happening? So when I have a company, I want to move to Metis ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I am somehow delegated part of supply.
You are. So we might grant you X amount of Metis tokens, and you can use that. It might be for paying your developers. It might be for upgrading your website, or it might be for liquidity to increase the pools in order for, like if you have a financial, DApp, in order to incentivize its use.
So I understood it. Do you mean that the more companies you will attain, you will get in your ecosystem, you will integrate in your ecosystem, the more shortage there will be with liquidity?
You could look at it that way, but we've the way we've set up our roadmap in our token structure, we've got over half of our supply dedicated over the next 10 years in order to incentivize and help fund these programs. So we've kind of planned out for now that our layer 2 is launched, and our the tokens that we've allotted to marketing and all these different functions, we've got 50% of our supply dedicated just to give back to the community through these grant programs and through other incentives that we have planned out.
Yeah, but as far as I know, I have opened while the presentation, I've opened your site, and as far as I discovered, you have limited supply and coin market cap also. Am I correct?
Correct. We do have a limited supply. It does not increase.
Okay, and question from my side. If you have limited supply, as far as I know, and you've mentioned that this is proof of stake, yeah?
Correct.
Usually proof of stake chains, they have unlimited supply. So will there be any discrepancies or problems with this approach in Metis project? In Metis project, because at the first glance, I can see that it's deflationary system. So it's not. It will not motivate the players of your ecosystem to like grow. So, every economy is growing due to inflation. Yeah, do you get it? And
that would be the centralized finances Austrian economics version. Correct. Yes, our traditional economy grows via inflation. That's controversial, but yes, that is true. That is true.
So,
look at Bitcoin and it's deflationary. Just because something's deflationary does not that doesn't necessarily make it bad. In fact, many, especially many in crypto, would argue that deflationary is a good thing versus inflationary.
Yes, but to be honest, Bitcoin is useless. Yeah.
No, I think it's doing pretty good.
Yeah. So the problem is that usually in the proof of stake blockchains, they burn tokens. So due to limited supply in your chain, maybe I'm not sure if you already have such mechanism established, but maybe theoretically you will have some events with additional supplies, like I don't know. To motivate ecosystem grow and to motivate your players to compete with each other, because deflationary mechanism is not so good. Unfortunately, everybody would like to have deflation, to live in a deflationary world, but
So let me explain the token.
Is a stimulus.
Let me explain the tokenomics a little bit better. We have a fixed supply. And we really shouldn't be talking too much about tokenomics here, but just to clarify this, we have a fixed supply of 10 million tokens. 4.9, I don't know the exact number, but about 4 million plus tokens are out there right now. So that means there are about 5.5 million tokens that have not been released. So technically, in the next 10 years, we are inflationary because we've got these unreleased tokens that we're slowly giving back to the community.
Schedule, yeah.
Yes, so that it is inflationary when we're looking at it from that end, but our supply is capped at 10 million tokens. We cannot just arbitrarily increase the 10 million supply to 20 million supply. 100 years from now, it'll be 10 million tokens. So. And 5 million of those tokens are reserved for programs like this that give the tokens to the community.
I see. That's actually not the problem as for now. I believe it's the problem of growth. So you have to solve the problem step by step. So
right. And that's what these programs are for, is to incentivize the developers to come to our network. We incentivize them. People use the developers' DApps. Our ecosystem grows. Our transaction fees grows. It's kind of a cycle. So we know what we're doing.
Yeah. It's just the next stage for the next milestone in roadmap, but not for now, because we don't know. Actually, we don't know how all the ecosystem will develop. I mean, all these blockchain systems and crypto and so on. What eventually and where it is moving, how it will be regulated. Maybe tomorrow the SEC Commission will ban Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything else. So what will happen? So yeah, your answers are quite they make sense. They are decent.
Thank you.
And logically, another my question. I'm sorry, maybe I am the main person who is asking.
It's fine.
What projects or companies have you already integrated in the Metis?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we've partnered with some pretty big names. Chainlink is live. SushiSwap, Qidao, also known as My Finance, Hummus. Those are kind of some of the bigger DeFi DApps. We've also got Revenant, which is a great GameFi ecosystem launchpad. I actually run the community ecosystem governance program now, so I don't do as much business development. But we featured over 29, different projects on our CEG program. And the way that works is we present a project that's interested in launching on the Metis network, that has already launched on the Metis network. We present them to the community. The community then votes on the project. And once the voting completes via snapshot, they're granted certified community verified project status, CVP status. So once they get that, we do a lot of co-marketing activities with them. We've got 29 different projects, which you can check out on our website, that have gone through that.
Thank you. I'm just opened your site to have a quick look.
Yeah. Oh, 1 second.
And let me check some more questions. I think we've already answered a lot of them. big amount. So, are you tired?
No, it's early for me. I'm good.
By the way, it's quite early at your side, yeah?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's what's the time?
8:45.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we've been already asking you for 45 minutes.
That's all right.
Let me check another question. So, is Metis integratable to my existing website, app, business, or platform?
Well, it really depends on what you wanted to do. If you wanted to form a DAC, we're rolling that out within the next quarter. So be sure to check with us for regular updates. We post them on our Medium website as well as Twitter. But if you're like a DApp and want to deploy, because we do, we have our layer 2 network, but then we also have what we're doing with Matrix reputation power. And we also have what we're doing with DACs. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with your website. If you're trying to deploy on a network, or if you're maybe trying to take your business to Web3 on-chain activity. So it all depends on what you're doing, but certainly reach out to us and we'd be glad to set up a meeting and see if we can help you out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your question and for your answer. It's maybe a continuation of what we've already discussed.
Yeah, that's all right.
So about how can we integrate and how we can move into your ecosystem. So let me check. Unfortunately, there are no more questions.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll maybe give 12 minutes back to everybody before the next guy comes on.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Andrew, and all the viewers out there. I know everything that EPAM does, both for the blockchain industry and kind of the world as a whole. So I just want to thank you guys for what you guys do, every month, but especially when these conferences come around. We really enjoy them. I've learned a lot myself just from checking others out. So just want to thank EPAM and also all the viewers out there.
Thank you, though, and really thank you for your time and for your talk. It was very interesting. Personally, for me, it was interesting. I believe to our audience, they have learned a lot. And from what I heard, I really like the logic, how you built your ecosystem. It's really attractive in terms that of limited supply. It's really attractive for me as, for example, as an investor.
Right?
I'm sorry, I'm not so deeply technical, but it looks very interesting from that side. I will discover a project at Messari.io, yeah. Deeply dive into the details, into the investors and tokens, shadow, vesting shadow, and so on. Thank you very much for your time. Really nice talk.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
I wish all your big team great success and to grow fast and to obtain more companies in your ecosystem. By the way, I'm sorry, just last question from my side. Can you tell a couple of words about your team? I've just discovered on your site you have an enormous team, really great people, great specialists.
Really good. So I mean, we're definitely above 50. I think we're closing on 100, but we've got an amazing executive team. Our co-founders, we have 3 of them. They've been in a space for many cycles. Elena, our CEO, she co-founded CryptoChicks, and that's an education platform that started in Toronto, where you're at, Andrew, and they provide through 56 countries women's education and blockchain. So be sure to check them out at cryptochicks.ca. And shout out to all my amazing team members. We continue to grow. We're hiring. So if you're looking for work in a blockchain space, be sure to look us up as well. Yeah,
that's great. Great team with great experience. I believe you will do it.
Sounds
you will
good.
Make your project grow all over the world.
Well, thanks so much. And again, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. And I have to say thank you to our beautiful viewers, to smart people who are watching us. And the next session will be about blockchain development. You will discover about Rust and Solidity programming language and how to implement blockchains and code on Solidity and Rust.
Fun.
Stay tuned, and thank you very much. Good luck to your team. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.